Hello everyone, welcome back to Look of a Kind. I had planned on making a pinecone wreath this year with the pinecones that I normally see, but I came across these. If you saw my YouTube short, you saw where I found these. What I'm going to do is show you how I make a simple pinecone wreath. Let's get started. What you will need is an old towel, a wired wreath form with gaps that are wide enough for the pinecones to go through. I got this one from Dollar Tree a couple of years ago. They usually don't make this size, so when I saw these, I grabbed a few. This is the largest size I normally see. You will need your prepared or processed pine cones and something large enough to hold the pine cones. If you saw my YouTube short about my singed pine cones, you have an idea of why I have two bowls. What you are going to do is put your processed pine cones in the bowl and fill it up with enough water to allow the pine cones to be submerged. You are doing this because the pine cones need to be wet when you are putting them in the wired wreath form. Also, if you did not know, pine cone scales close up when they are wet. This is very important in this process because not only do you need them wet, they need to be closed in order for them to fit in between the gaps of the wired wreath form. Once your processed pine cones are closed, you will need to find a location where your wreath will be undisturbed for a few days. Then you want to spread out your old towel. You will find that the seeds from the pine cones will fall out. Next, you want to have an idea of how you're going to place your pine cones in the wreath form. This is important because this will affect the look of the wreath in the end. If you guys can smell these. Not only were the burned pine cones darker than I wanted, they also had a slight burnt smell. I'm going to have to make categories and sizes. The size of these pine cones varied, so I decided to group them together before I started my pattern. I am thinking this may not be enough, but we will find out. At this point, I decided to do a pattern alternating dark and light and from large to small to large. As you will see later, my pattern did change. Alrighty, well, because I do not have enough, I am going to fold this up and have to go and get more, but at least this will kind of slow down the process of these opening up. It'll still kind of stay a little moist, a little damp, but I don't want to lose the pattern that I have, so I'm going to leave them here on the floor until I get more. I picked more pine cones. I've baked them already, so now I'm going to soak these so they can close back up and prep them for the wreath. And because it's been a few days, I'm going to have to wet these also because they are slowly starting to open up. So with the second go around, I was able to bake them and not burn them, but I want you to take a look at, this is the first, or I wouldn't say the first one, but the ones that I burned. And then here are the ones that I did get out in time. And excuse me, ashy hands, I've been washing dishes. But look at that. And then look at the ones I really want them to look like. That is the color I really wanted. This is the ones that I burnt, or this is the one that I burnt. And this is the one, the last set that I collected and baked. I have a lot of this last set, and that's all of these right here. And then of course I have those that I was able to get this lighter color right here. So I am thinking that I may not use the darker ones in this particular wreath, and we'll see. And as you can see, it looks like the pattern got thrown off, so I'm gonna have to redo this anyways, come up with a new pattern. If I'm going to at least blend these two right here together, I don't know, we'll see after I wet them. This is the new pattern that I chose. Because I had a lot of the medium colored pine cones, I alternated one light with two medium and repeated that pattern. As you can see, I already did the outer layer of pine cones. Here is a tip. Use a larger pine cones on the outside of the wreath form. This will help make the wreath look larger. Now that a pattern is set, it is time to put the pine cones on the wreath form. All you're going to do is shimmy the closed pine cones into the gaps of the wired form. You want to shimmy down enough to where the first couple of scales on the bottom pine cones pass the wire. This is what will help the pine cones stay in place once they open. You may have to hold the wreath form up so that the bottom of the pine cones can have room behind it. You also do not want to cram the pine cones. They are going to need space to open up. All of my pine cones are finally in. You may see some that are starting to open up, but that is because this was another day. I was short 6 pine cones and had to get more. In all, this was just under 100 pine cones. But this is what your wreath should start to look like. Excuse the lighting, I had to use my phone, but this is what we're looking like so far. It's still opening up, but you want to continue to make adjustments. Let's see. You want to continue to make adjustments as it's opening up,
because once they are completely open, it is going to be impossible to make any adjustments without breaking them or damaging them. So you just adjust as they open. But this is what we're looking like so far.
I hope this helps with your decorating.